So, I have lived in Norway since 2011. Whenever I moved here, one of my great and dear friends bought me a shirt, Philadelphia Phillies branded t-shirt, and on the back it says the number 11, and that was the year that I moved here, 2011. And yeah, it has been a 10-year, this month actually is 10-year journey living in this country, and I absolutely love living here. It is just, in so many respects, it's a dream come true, not only living in Norway, but living in Europe, and just being able to be part of the culture, being part of the social life, just being a member and feeling like I belong in this place. But I don't speak much Norwegian at all. Whenever people ask me, snakker du norsk? I always reply, ja, jeg snakker litt norsk. And that's basically where that conversation ends. And all that comes down to is they'll ask me, do you speak Norwegian? And I say, yeah, I speak a little bit of Norwegian. And let's now not speak Norwegian. So I'm kind of terrible in that regard. I carry a lot of guilt around not knowing very much Norwegian. I guess you could say I'm conversationally fluent, as long as the conversation's with like a 2-year-old. I can really get on just fine with most children, most toddlers, you could say, as long as they're not too smart for their age. My grandparents immigrated from Greece, so they came over literally on a boat to Ellis Island and settled in Philadelphia, opened several successful businesses, lived happy lives, and never learned English much more than I know Norwegian. So I guess you could say in some respects, as a role model for what an immigrant is responsible for doing in terms of their own integration, learning a language has not been kind of a priority for me. It wasn't a priority for my grandparents, certainly. I remember the summer that I found out that I got a job in Norway. My partner was staying with me at the time in Philadelphia, and we would listen to these CDs that were supposed to teach you how to speak Norwegian. And my partner's an absolute brilliant person when it comes to languages. She can pick up a language like people pick up a book. It's just amazing how quickly she can learn. So we would listen to these CDs in the car, and they did a lot of call and response. So the narrator would say something, and they say, repeat after me. They would say it, and then you were supposed to repeat it in the kind of space they provided. And I just remember they would say something. My partner would immediately repeat it, and it took me like 5 seconds later, so that I was on this delay. And I always get a little bit upset with her because, of course, she's so smart, and I was sitting there kind of feeling a little bit inadequate, but then also feeling like, how am I going to learn if you're responding to the question sooner than I can, because then I couldn't actually think enough about the response. So I was always on this time delay trying to learn Norwegian. So of course she picked it up really quick. When we moved here, she was fluent within 3 months. It took her literally no time at all to go from her first language, which was German, to speaking Norwegian fluently. It was absolutely amazing to see. I had never seen somebody learn a language so quickly before in my life. Certainly not me. And prior to that, I think I had some training in other languages. Like I had taken a semester's worth of Italian, a couple of semesters worth of Spanish. So I knew words in other languages, which I guess is a little more multilingual than a lot of people who, let's just be honest, a lot of people who come from the U.S. But learning a new language and even living in a country like Norway was really tough for me. I tried my best, but it just never kind of stuck. And I took Norwegian language courses. I've taken Norwegian language courses literally since we moved here. Maybe not 2011, but certainly by 2012, I'd already started taking language lessons. So I took online language lessons in Norwegian for most of 2012, most of 2013, and part of 2014. took all my cultural studies and everything like that. I had all the kind of requisite hours that I needed to kind of have the option to stay in Norway in case, after my contract was over, in case I wanted to. And still, it just wouldn't stick in my head. And whenever I would try to talk to people, they wouldn't understand me. And part of that's my accent. I just have a horrible American Norwegian accent. And part of it is just not understanding about languages. And even when I would try to speak using the kind of inflections and intonations that are commonly used in Norwegian, it would never feel like, I never felt like I was there and I was present in the language or in the moment. I was always trying to kind of reverse translate in my brain. And then it never came out fluently. And this was after years of learning about it. I've failed more Norwegian classes than I care to admit. I've taken the introductory basic, and if you know about language levels, I've taken the A1 class in Norwegian at least 3 times and failed it multiple times. And I don't know why it doesn't quite get there for me, but it just hasn't. And maybe I haven't put enough effort into it. That's probably part of it. And my students definitely tease me for it. Oh my gosh, did they tease me for it. But I will continue to try. I'll continue to put my best foot. But the trouble that I've had that's kind of gone along with having difficulty learning the language is that there's this sense of guilt and shame that comes with living in another country and not knowing the language of the country. It can be really painful sometimes to be in a room where they're speaking Norwegian and either there's just no win scenario here because they either continue to speak Norwegian, in which case I really can't follow. It's very difficult for me mentally to follow what's happening in the conversation. Or, and this could be also equally kind of troubling, is when they all look at you and they say, oh, do you want us to switch into English? And I'm like, well, yeah, if you want me to participate, that would be lovely. But you don't have to. Don't feel obligated on my part. So, yeah, I don't know. These are just, I guess, the trials and tribulations of being an immigrant. But it does carry some shame, and it does kind of affect, the kind of feeling of belonging sometimes whenever you're having trouble adapting and kind of integrating into the country that you live and the country that you care about, country that you love. So I guess the takeaway here is this. If you're like me and you have a tough time learning new languages, it's okay. There are many ways that you as an immigrant can contribute to the world that you live in, to the society you live in. You're still a human being. You still deserve to be here. You still have a right to be wherever you are. And I think that's really important for us to acknowledge and recognize. And you're going to get better over time. I've gotten much, much, much better in Norwegian over time. But again, that's kind of like going from a infant to a toddler level. I'm certainly not anywhere near where I would like to be when it comes to speaking Norwegian. And so my call to action here is going to be kind of a silly one, I guess you could say. I'm going to do this one too. I'm going to engage in this call to action because I think it'll be fun. I'm going to write either a haiku or a joke that combines my knowledge of Norwegian and my knowledge of English. Because English is my primary language, Norwegian is kind of my secondary language. So I'm going to try to write a haiku or a joke that combines these in some fun and silly way. So my challenge is to you to do the same. Try to write a haiku in a language that's not your primary language, and make sure it's not English either. Because if your primary language is, say, it's Norwegian, and you have English as like not quite secondary, but really it's also kind of a second primary language in a way, try a different language. Try German if you're taking German lessons, or French if you're taking French lessons, or just do it in English. It'll be fun. Throw it out on social media. Tag me if you want. Just keep it in your home and on a piece of paper that you throw away. It doesn't matter. I think it'll just be fun to do. I'll include it, my haiku and my joke, in the post that I throw out to social media, so you can check me out there.